Welcome to the LSESU Autumn Term Elections Campaigns presentation. We've got a slide package here for you so you can click through that in your own time. We've also recorded a little voice guide to accompany the slides for you. Here's a quick overview of all the things that we will be going through today. Here's an overview of the elections team. Your main point of contact, if you have any questions about running in the elections, are Sinead Gavin and Ben Borowiecki. If you have any questions regarding the election rules or a complaint, then Erica, the returning officer, is your main point of contact. Here are all important dates, so please make sure that you note them down. Time to familiarize yourself with the election rules and regulations. Our guiding principles can be found below, and please have a read on our website of all the election rules, because this is really important, and we want to make sure that you don't jeopardize your position in running in the elections. Again, the same goes for the complaints procedure. Please make sure that you are familiar with all of this, and please note the deadline for any complaints at 6 p.m. on the 10th of October. All complaints must go to su.returningofficer@lsesc.uk. Here's an overview of all the campaigning rules. Again, please make sure that you are very familiar with these, as breaking any of these will jeopardize your position in the elections. This is a quick note to say that if you have a campaigns team, then you are also responsible for the conduct of the campaigners in your team. So please make sure that all of the previous rules are also known to your candidate team. Here is a quick overview of the voting system. Again, knowing the details of how the voting works will only help you in campaigning effectively. So do make sure that you have a look at the video that's linked on the slide, and also familiarize yourself with the voting system. Here we have included an overview of student demographics. This is really important because this will give you an idea of what the student body looks like and who is basically the target of your campaigning. Knowing the makeup of the student body will help you identify what are some of the issues that students probably will care about, and the percentage of, for example, international students versus home students. Another point to keep in mind when campaigning effectively is if you would like to run for multiple positions, whilst it is absolutely fine to run for multiple positions, you cannot hold multiple positions at one time. So by the point of elections, you will need to decide which position you would like to go forward with. It is also worth considering whether campaigning for multiple positions will potentially weaken your position in the campaigning, and whether it might make it less clear to students which position they should vote for you. Your brand is a really important thing to keep in mind when campaigning effectively. Having a really clear visual brand identity and also very clear manifesto will help you stand out and help students understand what you stand for and what they will get when they vote for you. We will include some slides later on with ideas of how you can brand effectively and use visuals to really stand out. The next slides include some examples and some guides how to use social media effectively in order to campaign. Have a look at your own time through all the different avenues, and you don't need to use digital channels necessarily, but it certainly is recommended as this is where a lot of campaigning nowadays takes place. When campaigning, accessibility is a really important thing to keep in mind. This also goes for your digital content. So please familiarize yourself with some accessibility tools and features that you can use to make your campaign more accessible to everyone. Here are some tips to build a presence on campus. Whilst it is really important and useful to have a digital presence, it is also very, very important to have a presence on campus. Whilst these are all amazing tips, please keep in mind that all of this also needs to abide by the campaign's rules. So keep in mind minimum distances that you will need to keep when campaigning on campus when it comes to being near polling stations, for example. Clubs and society endorsements are also a great way to get the word out. If there are any clubs or societies that you have a natural affiliation with or that you think might align with some of the manifesto points that you are putting forward, then feel free to get in touch with them. Here are some tips on targeted campaigning. Again, think of the slides of the student demographics. Think of who is your natural ally, who are some of the students that will be most affected by your campaign, and also what are some of the big influences or communities that will be affected or might be affiliated with some of the points that you're making in your manifesto. Finally, also keep in mind, is your manifesto inclusive and does it speak to everyone on campus? Here is a useful tool that you could use in order to kind of understand who your natural allies are and who might be some of the people who wouldn't necessarily present a barrier, but might be more hard to convince of your manifesto points. So the stakeholder tool is very useful to identify who's high influence and low influence and who could be more supportive versus less supportive. Here are some tips for campaigning resources. Firstly, starting with building an effective campaigns team. We appreciate that not everyone may be able to have a big campaigns team around them, but if you do just have a few people who you think could support you, these are some of the ways that can help you. Next up, we have the campaigning budget. This is £20 per candidate, and this is the maximum amount that you can spend on your campaign. This is to make sure that everyone has an equal footing when it comes to campaigning effectively. Again, please read this slide thoroughly so you're fully aware and familiar with all of these rules. As previously mentioned, having tech resources can also be really, really helpful when designing your video, for example. So these are just some free resources that you could use. Further, there's support available. You're not on your own. If you do have any questions whatsoever, please make sure that you use these emails below. It is really important that you look after yourself in this process. And if you have any questions at all or worries, then please feel free to get in touch. Last but not least, as I've mentioned, looking after yourself in the election process is super, super important. Elections can be a very stressful time. So if you are stressed, make sure that you schedule some time for yourself to relax and recoup after going out and campaigning. And if you are struggling with deadlines, for example, you can contact your apartment to see if they'll give you an extension. They might not, but it's worth asking. This brings me to the end of our slide deck. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact any of the people that we've listed on the elections team and make use of all the resources listed in here. And good luck!